Before we start with volume, let's start what is three-dimension. In a three-dimensional space, we can measure the length, width, as well as the breadth, or the third dimension. As far as the volume is concerned, it is a quantity that all sort of three-dimensional objects have. If we analyze it in terms of dimension, it will be easy to understand. In a single dimensional object, we need one-dimensional quantity, which we call length. For an example, the line here is 1 meter. If we move or extend this one-dimensional line in a direction perpendicular to the line itself by a distance of 1 meter, it forms a two-dimensional object. And we called this object a rectangle, or to be a square exactly. Okay, now, if we imagine that we take this two-dimensional square and move or extend it in a direction perpendicular to its own surface by a distance of 1 meter, voila, it forms a three-dimensional object. That is, we called a cube. By the way, a cube has the same length, width, and height. And to measure a three-dimensional object as such, we use the dimensional quantity called volume. We know from our earlier tutorial what is length in physics, that the SI unit of length is meter. So in one dimension, the unit of measurement is meter. Now, if we recall the tutorial what is area in physics, we also learned that the SI unit of area is meter squared, as meter are multiplied twice. So in two dimensions, the unit of measurement is squared meter. Well, since here the cubical shape is made by extending 1 square meter shape a distance of 1 meter in the third dimension, we say its volume is exactly 1 cubic meter. And here the meter is multiplied 3 times. In international system, the unit to measure volume is cubic meter, which the volume occupied by a cube that measures 1 meter on each side. Also, we can abbreviate them using exponent notion, meter to the third power. So volume can be defined as how much any three-dimensional space occupied by a 3D object. There are also a few other units that are used to depict the volume. This includes the British system of measurements like barrels, drums, cubic decimeter, gallon. Amongst others, pint is the United States standard. However, some of the other standard units used in the British system are the cubic inch or cubic foot. Properties of volume, commonly symbolized as capital letter V, must be three-dimensional. All the dimensions must have positive numeric value to find the volume. The unit of volume is cubic meter. During this tutorial, we have discussed a lot about area here. If we see both area and volume side by side, it will enlighten the learner. As we know, 2D shapes have both a 2D quantity called area and a 1D quantity called perimeter, where volume is a 3D quantity for a measuring 3D objects, but it is to be noted that 3D objects also have a type of area that we don't want to confuse with volume. In a 3D object have both a 3D quantity called volume and a 2D quantity known as surface area. Surface area of a 3D object is not like it sounds. It is the area of the object's outer surface or shell. Perimeter is the one-dimensional outer boundary for 2D shape, while surface area is the 2D dimensional outer boundary for 3D shape. To understand the difference between surface area and volume, imagine that we have a perfect thick box filled with a solid ice block. Now, if we unfold the box, we can see the two-dimensional arc that surrounds the volume. And here the volume itself is the amount of 3D space occupied by the ice inside the box. Hope that the learner has understood what volume is and learner will not confuse it with the surface area of the three-dimensional shape. Please watch our tutorial on what is area in terms of physics. Maybe any assistance to you for better understanding of the surface area. The link is given in the description below. Submultiples of volume are 1 cubic centimeter equals to 10 raised to the power of minus 6 cubic meter. 1 cubic millimeter equals to 10 raised to the power of minus 9 cubic meter. 1 cubic micrometer equals to 10 raised to the power of minus 18 cubic meter. 1 cubic nanometer equals to 10 raised to the power of minus 27th cubic meter. However, the most widely used submultiples of volume are cubic centimeter and cubic nanometer. A multiple for large volume is 1 cubic kilometer is equal to 10 raised to the power of 9 cubic meters. To recap a little from the tutorial, what is length in terms of physics? It is to be noted that the cubic meter and all other small and larger volume units as mentioned now are the derived unit of meter, which is the unit of length. Most commonly, we need to find the volume of shapes. Any two-dimensional shape extended to the third dimension becomes a three-dimensional shape. It is to be noted there are confusion of some terminology used to describe the dimensions of geometric shape in both the two-dimensional and three-dimensional objects. For example, if we take the word length, width, and height. If we have a rectangle, we could name its two dimensions as length and width, like we did it in the tutorial What is Area in Physics. But we could also name them as width and height if we wanted to. It is to be noted that the actual names of the dimensions really are not that important. So different teachers might use different names. But the most important part is the calculation concept, even if different words are used to illustrate them. For example, the area of a rectangle is always found by multiplying its two side dimensions together. It does not matter if the two dimensions are defined as length and width or width and height. A lot of 3D shapes can be formed by taking a 2D shape and then extend it along the third dimension. Such as if we take a triangle and extend it to the third dimension, it becomes a triangle prism. Or if we take a rectangle and extend it to the third dimension, it becomes a rectangular prism. How about a two-dimensional circle? If we extend a circle in the third dimension, it becomes a cylinder. By the way, why when a circle is being extended in the third dimension is not called a circular prism? Because technically prisms are shapes that are formed by extending a polygon. As circle is not a polygon, the resulting shape will not fall in the prism category. The general formula to measure the volume is to find the area of the original 2D shape that got extended and then multiply that by the length or distance that it was extended. Normally, the original shape is called the base of the object. We will try to learn here to calculate the volume of three widely used objects known as triangle prism, rectangle prism, and the cylinder. Also, we will see the formula to measure the volume of a sphere and a cone. Let's start with the rectangular prism and calculate its volume. The base is the original rectangle and its dimensions are 2 meters by 3 meters. So to find the area of that base, we need to remember how to calculate the area of a rectangle. To do that, we just multiply the two side dimensions together. 2 meters times 3 meters give us 6 meters squared as the area. Now to find the volume, we just need to multiply that area by the length that the base would be extended, where we got already 6 meters squared, the area of the base. If the shape has an extended length, let's say 10 meters, so if we multiply 6 meters squared, the area of base by 10 meters, we got 60 meters cubed. So in 3 dimensions, this rectangular prism has a volume of 60 cubic meters. Now, let's try to find the volume of a triangular prism. The formula for finding the area of a triangle is 1/2 of the triangle's base times its height. The base is the original triangle. Be careful not to confuse the base of the triangle with the base of the prism, which is the triangle itself. Our diagram tells us that the base of the triangle is 6 meters and its height is 4 meters. So 1/2 the base times the height would be 1/2 of 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24 and 1/2 of 24 is 12. So the area of the triangle is 12 meters squared. Now all we have to do, find the volume, is multiplying that area by the length that it is extended. So if the length is 5 meters, so we multiply 12 squared meters by 5 meters and we got 60 meters cubed. So the volume of the triangular prism is 60 meters cubed. Here we need to find the volume of the cylinder. The base of the cylinder is the original circle. As we learned in our tutorial, what is area in physics? The area of a circle is found by multiplying pi times its radius squared. Here the radius of the circle is 2 meters. So if we square that, we get 4 meters squared. Then we multiply by pi, a natural number, which value is 3.14, and we get the area 12.56 meters squared. The cylinder is made by extending a circle. So we just multiply the area of the circle by the length that the circle was extended. Let's say the circle is being extended by 5 meters. So 5 meters times 12.56 meters squared gives us 62.56 meters cube. Hence, the volume of the cylinder is 62.56 cubic meters. Hope the learner can see now how to find the volume of 3D shapes like these, where shapes that are made by taking 2D shape and then extending it along a third axis. We just find the area of the 2D shape and then we multiply it by the length that it was extended, and that gives us the volume. And it works for any 2D shape such as pentagon or diamond or star or heart. Please note, not all 3D shapes are made by extending a 2D shape in a third dimension. Some are made by rotating a shape around an axis. For example, to form the sphere, a 2D circle needs to rotate around one of its diameter line. And another common 3D shape that can be formed by rotating a 2D shape around an axis is a cone. A cone can be formed by rotating a right angle around one of its two perpendicular edges. The formulas for finding the volumes of sphere and cone are more complicated to explain and demands a separate tutorial of its own. So for now, the best if we just memorize the formulas so we can use them on tests if we need to. Volume of a sphere equals to 4/3 times pi times radius cube. Here is a sphere where a radius of 2 meters. Fortunately, that is the only dimension we need to find its volume. Our formula says that the volume of a sphere is equal to 4/3 times pi times radius cube. Radius cube means multiply it by itself by 3 times. So we take 2 meter, multiply it by 2 meter, again multiply it by 2 meter, which equals to 8 meters cube. Next, we will multiply that by our approximation for pi, which is a natural number. 3.14 times 8 is 25.12. And last, we multiply that by 4/3, which is the same as multiplying by 4 then dividing by 3, which gives us a volume of 33.49 meters cubed. The volume of a cone equals to 1/3 times height times pi times radius squared. To use our formula to find the volume of a cone, we need to know two-dimensional properties: the radius of the circle that forms the base of the cone and the height of the cone, which is similar to the height of a triangle. It is the distance from the tipping point of the cone straight down to the center of the circle base. The radius of the base of the cone is 3 meters and its height is 9 meters. So first let's put the radius into the equation and square it. 3 meters multiplied by 3 meters is 9 squared meters. Next we multiply that by pi. Again the natural number approximation, if we take 3.14 and we get 28.26 squared meters. It is to be noted that that is just the area of the base of the circle. But now we need to multiply that base area by the 1/3 times the height of the cone. 1/3 times 9 meter is 3 meter, and 3 meter times 28.26 square meters gives us 84.78 cubic meters. which is the volume of the cone. It is to be noted that volume is also used to measure the fluid such as gas or liquid. To measure fluid, we use liter. Liter is the volume of a cube that measures 10 cm on each side. The volume of a liquid may be obtained by pouring it into a measuring cylinder. A known volume can be run off accurately from a burette. When making a reading, both vessels must be upright and our eyes must be level with the bottom of the curved liquid surface, that is meniscus. The meniscus formed by mercury is curved oppositely to that of other liquids and the top is red. If the meniscus is not considered, it will create a parallax error. For any queries, send email to rhkstore@gmail.com or write in comment section. Please subscribe, give a thumbs up, do share and do not forget to press the bell icon. Thank you for watching the tutorial. Stay home and stay safe.